one hell of a tongue bath.
That's not how we usually do it, but we thought it would be worth it. Hello, I am Frederick Olsen. With me, currently trying to stifle laughter, are Gareth Millward and Charles Kleinert.
Hello, indeed. Yes,
Hello.
on the IRC channel, Serena has just butted in going, what the fuck? And for those of you listening at home, Fred, please explain what just happened.
What basically happened was that Laura Mandel, who is of course the wife of our guest, whose name I don't want to drop yet, but I kind of just did, basically started licking all over her husband's face. If you've ever heard of Pavlov's dog, this was basically a very accurate dramatic reenactment.
That was so tender and beautiful, and poor woman.
It was. And it was absolutely hideous. But, you know, on that subject, on the subject of our guest, of course, you should know by now that this is the norm. We have a guest with us. We actually have a very special guest this time around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you his lovely mug, and I'm going to tell you that tonight we are in the presence of, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, please welcome a very special guest at this time. A designer of primacy who has made a game about a frontier pharmacy. He's the Sierra alum, never glum, always aglow. He probably spent too much time with Al Lowe. Never knowingly involved in a Kickstarter. The third guy from Andromeda, the Duke of Mayhem, the voice of King Graham. Like a bat out of development hell, give it up for Josh, too hot to handle, Mandel! Hello, Josh. How are you doing?
Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you for that introduction.
Oh, you're welcome. That was actually Gareth's handiwork. He writes these embarrassing little ditties.
That was kind of remarkable.
What can I say? Rhyming dictionaries get you everywhere.
Oh, they do that. They do that. All right, 2 seconds. I just realized here that since I didn't play the main theme, I have to do a little bit of magic here. Right. Okay.
Magic.
Yeah. So basically,
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, how are you doing, Trolls?
I'm doing great. Now, I went and had a fantastic evening on Friday, got very, very drunk at my old university. Then I came home and on Saturday made a pot of chili that could, you know, melt its way through a sheet of metal. I
have a question.
2 weekends in a row.
I have a question. When does this information become relevant?
Never. I just wanted to tell you how
I
I
want to know what you made it in.
I made it in what used to be a pot. It's now a liquid piece of something that's fused with my stove.
Impressive.
Cool.
Yeah. Tasty. Brilliant.
It's like the early episodes of Breaking Bad, isn't it, where he doesn't buy the right kind of tub.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, there's now a huge hole where my stove used to be, and we can see into our downstairs neighbor's apartment.
Oh, that's lovely. That's absolutely lovely.
Unfortunately, our stove is right up their bed, so they died. But anyway.
Oh, I see. Well, anyway, please do allow me to finish working my computer magic here, and then I'm going to introduce Josh to what this is. Because what we're about to do is a game, and it's a show, but it's not a game show. Now, this is where 4 people sit down with each other and try to brainstorm the next blockbuster adventure game. And if you're listening to this as the head of a major label or as a struggling indie, first of all, what the fuck is your problem? Secondly, you're totally free to take the idea that we come up with and run with it, because after all, we call this open crowdsource.
Open crowdsource. Sorry, I just want to do that in
unison. Yeah, thank you very much for ruining it. Now,
that's a familiar refrain on this show.
Yeah, thank you for ruining it. Now, with that out of the way, the rules are pretty simple. What we like to call the open crowdsource machine, which is a little concoction that we've made, will randomly select 4 cards. There'll be a character, a setting, a task, and a modifier. And we have 30 minutes, it runs on a timer, where we can sketch out a full-length adventure game from whatever it gives us. Now, some of these cards are plucked from the classic adventure games and movies of yore that we all know and love, and some, let's just say some aren't. Now, sometime during the proceedings, the faceless jerk of the game's producer, a figure Josh is totally unfamiliar with, will chime in with a twist that we all have to adhere to, and we have to change the design according to that. These twists come in two different varieties, major and minor twists, and we can fully expect that jerk to throw one of each at us, which is what gaming CEOs do, basically. Now, at the end of the half hour, you'll hear the sound of a buzzer, and we'll try to recap what we've designed, for better or for worse. And as you've probably all noticed, this is going out there live, so people in the IRC chat room, hi guys, at irc.freenode.net /backseatdesigners, and on our Twitter at bsdesigners, can all get involved by suggesting plot points, additions, and most importantly of all, the title for our little Meisterwerk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the screen here to... the screen is locked, gentlemen, is it not?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it is very locked.
Okay,
So who's
great.
going to ask you if the machine is ready?
Well, I don't want anyone to ask me. What I'm going to say is basically that, gee willikers, I hope the machine is ready, so why don't we find out? Well, it sounds
Dramatic.
ready.
That never gets old, does it? Actually, before we begin, there's a quick question from the IRC channel. Brian, who was a guest on a couple of episodes ago, wants to know why, Josh, you live with so many tongue bath administering creatures.
I think that the answer should be self-explanatory, shouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You do have a very clean face, sir.
Yes, yes.
We already have
I polish it twice a day.
Or someone else does for you. Whoa.
Right.
Next thing you know, Laura is going to show up behind you with a pool cue. Right,
No,
okay,
that
so
was oh, God. Yeah.
we already had a suggestion from Brian on the RC channel. Josh Mandel must secure the big account by getting a tongue bath from Gandhi. I don't think that'll do. So what do you say that I click the begin button and we see if this thing will work out? Come
Yeah,
on, my water.
good idea, Brian, but let's just let the machine do its work.
Yeah. Feel free to develop the game, but right, here we go.
Might have to add some cards here.
Adolf Hitler in the Gobi Desert must enlighten the Western world with wiggle room for a prequel.
What the fuck?
Now, Josh, first of all, you're going to have to design a game based on an historic figure who most people is righteously quite uncomfortable with. How do you get around doing something like that?
I think we really have to explore his warm, funny side.
This game is going to be really hard to market in Germany.
Do you have any definite examples of such a warm, funny side to one of the most hated men of the 20th century?
He liked cats.
No. I've done surprisingly little research into this, however.
Right. But we've got a historian with us. Has Adolf Hitler ever been in the Gobi Desert, or are we talking some alternate reality shit here?
Well, my geography is not too good. The Gobi Desert is in China, right?
I think it is. Yeah, it's in Mongolia, I think.
Okay. Well, maybe he went there then in the late 19th century, early 20th century. Maybe he went on a gap year before he went to college. You know, wanted to explore himself. Wanted to do some watercolor paintings, explore vegetarianism.
Yeah.
Something that I'm actually thinking is that this could be a very dark take on the 1950s B movie, because, you know, looking at it, and this is going to be controversial, but obviously what Hitler tried to do was enlightening the Western world. I would just argue he got quite a few bits and pieces wrong. But maybe this is one of those Hitler never died, he simply escaped into the Gobi Desert kind of games. But that renders it very serious, and I'm not sure we want that.
So wait a minute.
I was going to say that sounds almost more appropriate for the ending, because we want to be able to leave wiggle room for a sequel, and so we don't quite know what happens to him at the end. We think he has probably died, but he
I just want to make one small correction. Sorry, but it actually says prequel.
And I was going to say, does that imply that the prequel is the Second World War? That's one hell of a prequel.
How do you design an adventure game based on the Second World War? Well, that could be an episode in itself.
Well,
Right.
let's just go with the alternate reality thing that Adolf Hitler didn't actually die in his bunker. He sort of crawled out after having set Eva Braun on fire, and headed off to the Gobi Desert to see where he went wrong the first time.
Yeah. The Gobi Desert was alive with the sound of music or something.
He needs, he probably would want to be in disguise, so maybe this is one of those things where he has to get a decent disguise together, because he was probably not willing or able to go out too much in public and do a lot of traveling as himself.
Right. The first puzzle of the game is basically ditching the uniform, and
you need a cat hair mustache.
Oh, right. See, we could one of the first puzzles could be growing a beard. Like, if this is one of those comedy adventures, because who doesn't want a comedy adventure starring Adolf Hitler? You could basically have him, pick up some growth formula and smearing it all over his face, and then out comes this wonderful log cabin style beard. And,
By the end, he was addicted to crystal meth, so this all seems in character.
What you're saying is that we're about to make a 1940s, 50s Breaking Bad starring Adolf Hitler.
Breaking worse, I think. In the case of Adolf Hitler.
Right. So, let's think a little bit about this. What does Hitler want to do when he wants to enlighten the Western world? Because he already tried once, and did he realize how wrong he was, or is he simply trying to recuperate and try that fucking thing again? Or what do you guys make of it?
It's a dangerous situation, because we can't really make this a redemption story where Adolf Hitler turns good without getting someone on our backs.
That is true.
I'm thinking, certain people who traveled in the desert for 40 years, perhaps, they might have an issue with that.
Yeah, well, rightfully so, I would say. He's not a redeemable character. He kind of forfeited the right to ever be a redeemable character.
But is it? I mean, can we even go so far as to call him an anti-hero, or are we? Because I'm not really sure.
We most definitely cannot. No. Well, I guess you could, but you would have to be a sick motherfucker to sit down and play this game.
The hard thing about it, of course, is that you want the player somehow to identify with the main character of the game. So how are we going to get people to identify with Hitler?
I know! I've got it! You don't actually play as Adolf Hitler. You play as his plucky assistant, who's really just a complete and total idiot, who's gone along with Mr. Hitler to the Gobi Desert, and Hitler's just.
Can his name be Moshe?
Oh yes.
Oh right. So the protagonist is now Hitler's pluggy assistant. What was the name again?
Moshe.
Moshe.
Or
Moshe.
Shlomo is good too. I like.
Oh, Shlomo.
Actually, Shlomo is pretty good, because one, why would he bring a Jewish assistant? And two, just the name Shlomo kind of implies that he's a bit slow. So,
Right.
So are we going with a name like Call of Duty?
Yeah, I think it has never been more imperative on this show that we play our cards absolutely right. So the answer is probably no.
I think this is by far the most challenging deck of cards we've ever been dealt.
I think you've raised a good point, though, that you're never going to be able to identify with Herr Hitler, and that moving to the side of him, perhaps, and making it completely farcical may well be the route.
I like the idea of introducing Moshlo, because he kind of sounds like the Laurel to Hitler's Hardy. Hitler is the guy playing it straight, whereas Moshlo just always inevitably fucks it all up.
And basically the goal of the game is for Shlomo to convince Hitler that really this is not something you want to try again. Why don't you just sit there in your cabin in the Gobi Desert? I imagine he's in a cabin. I mean, he's got a thing for enclosed spaces.
Like a yurt.
And basically at the end, Shlomo realizes that he's working for evil incarnates, and the final puzzle of the game is to kill him.
So
I like that.
it takes Shlomo the entire length of the game to figure out Hitler bad?
Well, he's very
slow.
I guess.
Well, the prequel is how he got the job in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Because maybe Shlomo and Mr. Hitler were not acquainted before. Maybe he just meets Shlomo in the Gobi Desert.
I love how you call one of the most hated men in history Mr. Hitler. I think you can disperse with the pleasantries at this point.
Well, we've got Mr. Watikins.
I would like to take just a moment to beg my family to not disown me just for having this conversation.
Yeah, you heard this. Well, of course, the main villain is, of course, quite controversial. But let's bear in mind that Wolfenstein 3D did it, and the goal was there to actually kill Hitler. So I guess in that light, it's okay. It's absolutely never okay to have him as a sympathetic protagonist. We'll probably be, the world might be ready for that in, I don't know, 500 years or something.
I think we can go so far.
Can he be the main antagonist, and Shlomo's entire thing is to destroy Hitler once and for all? Since this takes place after the Second World War.
Well, I guess, and it could start out with Shlomo being in Hitler's service, but then he finds out that Hitler bad, not at the very end game, but like in the middle of it. So he's slow, but he's not that slow, and then it turns into get rid of Hitler. Because Hitler is probably a pretty bad boss.
Yeah, I had the idea that maybe he doesn't even realize that it's Hitler. I mean, it's one of those revelations at the end that he basically goes through the. Maybe he's one of those interns, like a trainee or something. Hitler's gathered this little office space in the Gobi Desert in his cabin somewhere, and he's sending these guys on test your worth kind of thing. And it starts out pretty innocently, I don't know, dig a trench, build me a guard tower or something like that, and by the end of it, he's just going, now round up the Jews, and then you go, oh God, what am I doing?
Yeah.
So basically, we're going to have lots and lots of puzzles where the key is sand.
Yes.
Yeah, I was about to ask that of you as well, Josh, because you're obviously no stranger to the whole adventure game design thing. And one thing that you've certainly done before is you've designed a game that has quite the inept protagonist. I mean, your rendition of Roger Wilco was pretty dim-witted, I would argue. But how do you design a game in such a bland location as the Gobi Desert? How would you go about making that location exciting?
Well, one of the things I think I would do is actually, not to be facetious, but I would study up on sand. What can you make out of sand? How can you construct with sand? What can you do if you melt it, and make glass out of it? I would put in a lot with that, so that by the time people finish the game, they think, wow, I know more about sand than I ever wanted to.
That's good.
Awesome.
And also, what kind of people live in the Gobi Desert? I, like my co-host Gareth, I'm not big on geography. What kind of locales are we talking about? What's to see in the Gobi Desert besides sand?
The sky.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, if it is Mongolia, then that's sort of horse riding country, yurts, being out on the plains around the Gobi Desert, and
you would probably have these little nomad camps where you have to sneak in after water, and then you get the staff to the treasure room, and then you go a couple of screens over to the left, and you hit the treasure room, and you knock the door, and oh shit, wrong game.
maybe the a point of the game or the point of Hitler's little Johns in the Gobi Desert is that he wants to write Mein Kampf too. So you have to fashion him writing utensils and such. Get him a typewriter. Get him some paper. Like you said, make paper out of sand or something.
Yeah, but that's only when you're his boss. Make paper out of sand. You just have to compress it until it stays together in one sheet. But really, I love the idea of what Josh mentioned, and I think that is breaking out of the game for a minute. That is something that characterizes the adventure game designs of Josh Mandel, is this incredible attention to detail. So now we know sand will be a very prominent element in Slow-Mo's journey to first serve Hitler and next destroy him. And I like the idea of Hitler going, I'm going to do take two because take one was just a draft. I think he's kind of, he's vigorously trying to show the world that he was absolutely right. He just got the minutiae wrong.
Yeah,
so he is very much the antagonist, sorry.
Yeah, and I also like the idea that you don't actually know that it's Hitler until the very end. Like, maybe you don't even meet him. Maybe the guy handing you your assignments and such is actually Hitler's close confidant or whatever. So Hitler's just ensconced in this cabin in the Gobi Desert, writing out Mein Kampf 2 or something, and you don't meet him until the very, very end.
A suggestion we got over from the RC channel from Maximum Bird, whom I believe is Brian Devins' wife, Bianca, is that we need yaks. We need yaks wearing yarmulkas.
Oh, because the Gobi Desert is between Mongolia and China, so there's a lot of yaks, and they should all be wearing yarmulkas. Why would you suggest that?
I suppose that this is open crowdsource. Really, they should be GNU.
Yeah. So let's just, because the whole thing about enlightening the Western world failed once, trying that again, and we're running around the Gobi Desert trying to fashion bits and pieces for him, and at the end of it we realize we're working for the most hated man in the universe, and we're off to kill him.
Well, that actually might be quite useful, because there are elements, and this is one of the problems that we're seeing in, to take it to actually go somewhere higher than the lowest brow possible. We're having a few problems in the Western world at the moment where a lot of ideas that are being peddled by right-wing parties are not that dissimilar from 20s and 30s fascism.
15 minutes to go.
We have a twist.
No, we don't. Oh, we do. Sorry. A major tobacco company will pay us to have cigarettes in this thing. Make them part of the main plot, and it gets cut off, but I suppose that's the gist of it. We need to have smoking majorly represented.
I wrote that card. The last bit is, and make sure it's marketed to children.
Oh.
Well, Camel,
Okay.
obviously. Camel, obviously.
Camel.
Why? I mean, that just basically, that wrote itself.
So, Josh, any ideas? We have to feature Camel in this thing, and we have to market a game starring a smoking Adolf Hitler to children.
This just got really complicated.
I don't see a problem.
No, it basically, maybe Shlomo has a talking camel, because over on the RC channel, Demodulated, Brian here suggested that is a Sherpa. He's indigenous to the Gobi Desert or to Mongolia. He could have a talking camel that smokes.
And it wears a yarmulke. And Bianca suggests that it plays a tuba, but I think we might want to leave the tuba on the cutting room floor. It's just this feeling I have.
I would like to suggest that perhaps a puzzle, because maybe there should be some puzzles.
Yeah, good.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, is that the camel has some sort of an injury, and you treat it. It's an injury on top of its head, and you use the yarmulke to bandage it. It's Shlomo's yarmulke.
Ah, yes.
He often gives it to the camel as part of the solution to the puzzle.
Nice.
That's actually not. Yeah, that's good. So I mean, not only is Shlomo has this new intern job for this mysterious boss, but he's got shit to deal with on his own as well. I mean, I mean, just getting around the Gobi Desert. I mean, stuff like finding oasis and water, and I imagine that's not easy.
Wrong game again.
No, not King's Quest V, you dolt. Just wait, it does sound a bit like King's Quest V, doesn't it?
It does a little bit. I guess we need to, I think Josh had a brilliant idea, which is that to make this location interesting, you need to make sand interesting. But Josh, if you had to say, screw the geography, what we know is it's a desert and it's situated near Mongolia and near China. What locales do you think Shlomo would be able to visit during the course of the game, apart from the main stretch of desert?
Oh yeah, it doesn't have to be in the desert the whole time.
No, true.
Oh, well, I mean, there can be a variety of yurts.
Everyone's just stunned.
That's
Is that
a sentence that I never thought I would say in my life, and I like it.
Is that like a loom kind of thing? Welcome to the yurt of glassmaking.
Exactly.
And maybe that's where you learn some tools of the trade as far as converting sand into stuff you can sell and stuff. I'm not sure if there's a trade system or something in this game, but you probably pick up skills from these various yurts when you go there on your trusty chain-smoking camel.
But yeah, I mean,
we get to say yurt a lot, which right there has got a lot of entertainment value.
oh yes.
That is true.
Definitely.
We could probably do a Fate of Atlantis type thing where you try to pick up directions for some of the yurts. Some of them you probably know where are located, and others you kind of have to learn. So you have to stop random people in the desert who go, this yurt is right over next by this yurt, and a bit to the south of this yurt.
And I think I would probably use some underground locations. I mean, there can be, as you pointed out, Hitler loved his confined spaces, and we can certainly invent some underground, some structures that are underneath the surface of the desert.
We're going to have to do that because if we spend too much time in yurts, the game's going to be too intense.
Yeah.
But I got it.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Intense. He's making a pun, you see. Intense.
Yeah.
Uh,
That took me way too long.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
guys, come
actually
on.
proud. I'm actually proud I didn't get it.
Garrett, that was great. It was perfectly timed and very subtle, and I salute you.
See?
Wow.
Yeah, that's
This is
high
why
praise.
I'm the one that's really in charge.
But yeah, I actually like the idea of an underground location because then you also have some in-ground locale, some interior locales, and something that I actually read up on randomly because I'm, often fascinated by darker aspects of history, was that Charles Manson, the serial killer, actually planned to build this underground city in Death Valley where he and his sick followers would flee when the big helter-skelter racial war started. So maybe Hitler is trying to build this underground utopia from where he can enlighten the Western world, and maybe part of the game takes place in that vast underground city, and maybe that's where Shlomo begins to piece things together.
I love this. It's like Hitler's Bond villain hideout. It's just this huge
Exactly.
underground complex. Also, I like how you prefaced Charles Manson, the serial killer, as opposed to Charlie Manson, the gas station attendant.
Yes.
It makes me wonder, I mean, given I would have to look at the dates involved, but what if there's this little kid running around helping Hitler, and at the end he says, oh, good job, you did a very good job there, Charlie, go on.
Wait, there's an idea, because we are talking the tail end of the 40s.
It's
Or
possible.
Maybe like the
Manson
start of
was-
the 50s. I mean, he's got to settle in, It takes a long time to build an underground lair. Also, speaking of locales, because, the desert does get boring, the only thing the cards tell us is that Adolf Hitler is in the Gobi Desert. Shlomo doesn't have to start out in Hitler's underground fortress or anything. I mean, we're right near Mongolia. When I think of Mongolia, I think about a lot of mountains and a lot of, we could go all over the place. And just end in the Gobi Desert.
Intense.
Intense. First intense and then underground.
Yeah.
And the joke was funnier the first time.
Yeah, I'm desperately now
sorry.
seeking some kind of step joke, but I can't really get there.
Yeah.
But I think as a historian,
This is how you
one of-
preface all sentences.
one of the things that's quite interesting, because we said earlier that he doesn't necessarily know straight away that that's who he's working for. But to me, it's quite interesting that there's a few things at the base level of fascism that seem like common sense. It seems a natural way to deal with the problems that the world is facing, and these early statements, which seem that seems reasonably logical. Start building up and building up, and as this underground city grows and grows, you realise, oh shit, I'm building a fascist utopia. Maybe maybe I need to stop this.
Oh, it's like mama shit. You have been too slow, Shlomo.
Something like that, but less racist. Yes.
Bianca over on the IRC channel is practically shouting at us that the Great Wall is not only in Mongolia, but also in the Gobi Desert. So we definitely have to visit the Great Wall at some point. Josh just went off, I can tell.
Yes, I'm very excited by that. That opens up so many more possibilities. I love it.
Apparently there's also a tunnel.
Like which ones? Examples? Okay, it opens up.
I'm still back on trying to come up with some kind of pun about steps.
Can we move on?
I don't have one yet, but if I put enough time into it, I'm sure it's going to be a beaut.
Can we move on to the poll, because we have 6 minutes and 20 seconds left.
I got that one. I didn't get the first one, but I got that one. A beaut. See?
Let's see, the Great Wall.
There's a ton of shit going on the Great Wall. I mean, first of all, wall. To get to the underground fort. Maybe the whole point is that Shlomo's uncle or something has gotten him this fantastic job opportunity. It's in the Gobi Desert, and he's not quite sure how to find it. But basically, the entire quest is for Shlomo to get to Adolf Hitler's little Bond villain hideout, underground fortress. So we start out in Mongolia or China or whatever. So we have to go from China to Mongolia over the Great Wall into the desert, and then to the.
You have to dodge Roger Waters, who is making anti-capitalist statements on the Great Wall.
So how's okay? So no, I have no question. I just really wanted a reaction to that idea. That we're basically on the great quest to this fantastic job opportunity, which turns out to be a madman who wants to,
But isn't that doesn't that leave the end game a tad unsatisfactory? Because what does he do? Is that where he resolves to kill Hitler, or does he simply leave? 5 minutes to go.
I would say he gets as far, and he must have received some instructions on how to get there, and I suppose in those instructions could also be like little tasks that he has to complete on the way. Like he has to bring some sort of trinket or some sort of secret handshake kind of thing, just to
you can't do the hiling thing anymore, because that became kind of conspicuous early on.
I mean,
he would let it slip now and then. I mean, old habits die hard.
Yeah, like a Dr. Strangelove kind of thing.
Right.
And so once you get to and by the way, this great trek across the Great Wall and across Mongolia and the desert and such, that could be where Mr. Camel, the smoking camel, suffers some sort of.
We have a twist.
Excuse me, I thought that was me.
Just heard X-Files is making a comeback. This has to be an alien supernatural thriller.
Oh, no, how do we do that?
We're actually not that far off, because what we have to recap is that Adolf Hitler is alive and well. He's in the Gobi Desert. He's got a great big underground Bond villain complex. I guess he could have been rescued by aliens. This was a bit of a trope in 1950 sci-fi. They saved Hitler's brain. What if the aliens were evil? Ooh, ha ha ha.
Oh, dude! That is brilliant, because let's go with this. It's not just Adolf Hitler, alive and well and wearing fancy pants and such. It's Hitler's brain in a jar hooked up to this giant computer underground in the Gobi Desert.
Yeah, preceded over by evil aliens.
Yeah, because aliens are actually using Hitler's brain. It's Hitler's the main antagonist, but he's really just a pawn in all of this. It's the alien.
this is actually very good because what you can do with this, apart from actually it's very 1950s. You can have this comic relief main character Shlomo who unveils this entire plot, and there's a lot of smoking going on. It's kind of got a lot of slapstick humor in it because we have to market it for children, along with the smoking. So it's not too far off from something like, I know there was a Plan 9 from Outer Space adventure game, but I haven't played it. But it's very close to Flight of the Amazon Queen and that kind of game.
Hey, Josh.
Wasn't the bad guy at the end of Space Quest 6 also a disembodied brain?
Not disembodied. She was just shrunken down to microscopic size.
Ah.
Close enough. She was a brain. But Josh, do you think we could get Douglas Herring to redo the art style from Space Quest 1 VGA for this?
I think he would leap at the chance. I can't imagine why he wouldn't. Who would not want to be associated with this game?
I know, but this last twist really, spun everything around. This actually just became a very, very interesting idea.
Yeah, I'm getting the idea that this game could work, and I do know one annoying CEO who would probably do it. None named, none forgotten.
What?
I know who he's talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway,
yeah, exactly.
I can just picture the end game. This gigantic underground complex. You go into the control room, and there's like Kang and Kodos from The Simpsons, all huddled around this giant jar with Hitler's brain in it and electrodes everywhere. And this is gonna be good.
We have 1 minute left. So does anyone want to recap before the buzzer goes off?
I just want to add: can the brain be smoking?
Yes, the brain can absolutely be smoking.
There's a little attachment on the side of the jar where it just inhales cigarette smoke, and there's one alien whose only job in the world is to just go and light cigarettes.
Yeah, you can make little plushies of it and market it to children.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it comes with a lighter.
Yeah, Hitler's smoking brain. You press the brain and smoke comes out of this little cigarette.
And it just goes, that is such a relief.
Good.
Sehr good.
So Hitler's disembodied brain in the middle of the Gobi Desert is trying to build an underground utopia from where he can relaunch his political career.
Yes. Or aliens are using
to enlighten the Western world.
Yes.
Actually, and there we went. That was it. We're now done designing, but we can, of course, discuss the pros and cons about this. Actually, in retrospect, wonderful game idea. Josh, what do you think of what we came up with during this half-hour session?
I think it's great. I would play it. I would be proud to be associated with it. Actually, I love doing it as sort of a peon to the 50s sci-fi movies. Like if you've ever seen Lost Skeleton of Cadavra, it's a parody of the 50s sci-fi movies. It's wonderful. There is nothing about this design that I don't like.
No, could you, just for the listeners at home, recap the design as you see it in your head?
Yes, please do.
My understanding is that, indeed, Hitler, at the end of World War II, was rescued by aliens, and of course that very nicely sets up a fascinating prequel, because who wouldn't want to see that happen? Hitler's rescued from the bunker, but maybe they only get a chance to rescue his brain. And he's set up in this huge underground facility in the Gobi Desert where he is trying to create his own little utopia and reframe Mein Kampf to represent it to the Western world with, of course, the help of the aliens. And our hero and our in-game ego, Shlomo, initially thinks that this is he's being hired for some kind of wonderful job. He gets there and eventually, over the course of the game, discovers that indeed this smoking brain over here is actually Hitler's, and then he has to destroy him, and he has to destroy the entire underground facility, and also deal with the aliens.
Yes. Oh, this is fantastic. Over in the IRC channel,
This is good.
Serena is asking when she should set up the Kickstarter. We could basically do that right now.
This is actually good. Though I will say that we do have Hitler's brains as an antagonist. In the brain's defense, the brain is a vegetarian, and it likes cats.
What worries me is that this all came together as a result of the major twist, which was supposed to throw us off.
Yeah,
Right.
actually, I was going to say from the start of this, I was going, oh God, we've got the most illustrious guest we can ever think of, and the cards have just dealt us absolute shit. We're going to get nowhere with this. And then the final twist hits, and suddenly it just became brilliant.
It started making sense.
It makes
Josh,
sense.
when Ken Williams started making demands a few hours before shipping, did that help you as well?
Actually, never.
Didn't help, or he didn't make.
It never helped.
No. Okay.
No, it always he would make his new, he'd say, all right, I want this to work with my OnStar system in the car, and then he would leave, and then we would all look at each other, and we would just all run to the bathroom. We didn't know what else to do, and we were panicking, and our bowels were loosening.
As some of you may have known from previous interviews, the preferred relaxation method at the old Sierra Online facilities was to engage in a huge crossing swords competition. I
didn't
am
know
totally
that, but,
kidding.
I'm totally sure it's true. But on that note, I will say that I believe this is it for Open Crowdsource for this episode. And thank you once again, Josh. It has been an absolute pleasure to actually come out with a design that makes sense. Do you have any project that you want to plug, or any parting words in general?
Well, I'm working on a game I'm very excited about. I'm not designing it, but I'm writing all the dialogue, or rewriting the dialogue. It's called Ember. It's coming out from Enfusion. They have previews of it on their website and everything. But I want to say this has been an honor. You guys were great. I feel like you guys carried the weight of this design. There's a lot of stuff here I never would have thought of, and Gareth's puns, I'm just a little bit in awe.
I think you just made Gareth's day.
That's made my day, and if you could tell my wife that, so she doesn't hit me every 5 minutes when I make it, that'd be great.
I can get her to lick you.
Yes, and
Chance
please.
would be a fine thing.
But
Happy
realistically,
birthday
she
to,
would.
Yeah,
Oh,
happy
sorry.
birthday to Laura Mandel and her fabulous face-licking abilities.
Yes, happy birthday, Laura. Now, Gareth, the man being hit by his wife for several, puns that you make. Do you have any parting words?
No, other than domestic violence is never funny.
Okay,
It just was.
but Adolf Hitler absolutely is. Trolls, my hetero life partner. Anything you want to plug?
Your butt?
Too late. All right. So, once again, go to backseatdesigners.com. You can find all the details about the show there. You can get our Twitter, our Facebook, our YouTube, and all the various links for you to subscribe to this show. So on that note, say goodbye, Gareth.
Bye.
Say goodbye in brief, trolls.
Goodbye.
And goodbye from myself. We'll see you next week.
Who's
Goodbye,
on next
Josh.
week?
Oh, sorry. Next week, why don't you introduce us to the guests who will be joining us next week?
I don't remember.
Oh, well,
I don't have the
do
fucking
that.
list with me.
I do that. Yeah, you have to read up on this, because it's actually a guest you know and will present. Next week's guest is a YouTube Let's Player named Diana Rose, and last I heard, she's very much looking forward to joining us. She's not an adventure game designer as such, but she's played a bunch of the games on her YouTube channel, and she's very much into it. So we're looking forward to have her here next week.
Wonder who she'll be licked by. Sorry.
Yeah. And
Anyway.
on that bombshell, you will just have to tune in next week to find out whom Diana Rose will be licked by. It's time to say goodnight. So goodbye, friends. Thank you. See you next week.